What I'm going to be speaking about, I'll spend a few minutes talking about 3 solutions that we offer within DXI, which is called Digital Experience Insights. The whole goal of today is to show you how we're able to nullify the war room situation that most of you guys are familiar with. Hey, it's the network guy's fault, it's the database guy's fault, or it's the application guy's fault. What I'm going to be showcasing today is by leveraging DXI, we're able to pinpoint exactly in which one of these tiers these solution resides, and how can I go ahead resolving them. So first off, before I jump into any of the other ones, I'm going to start off at the end user tier, if you will. What I have in there is a simple e-commerce based application that we're currently monitoring. Let me go ahead and resize. All right. So these are 2 simple based, mobile based applications. Right off the bat, when I start monitoring them, I'm provided with a few key metrics that I look at. The critical one I'm going to be focusing on is the crash. So crash translates to sad faces translates to loss in revenue, or maybe leaving you for a competitor. Let me go ahead and drill down into the crashes and see what's really going on, right? From an end user experience. So I click on that, it filters it out. I'm able to see, based on a geographical heat map as well, where are my users located, how many sessions are going on. But my key focus over here is I want to drill down into the crashes. What I'm going to do is click on the crashes. I have 3 crashes. It provides me with a quick overview breakdown on the platform, the devices, the network provider. I'm able to identify and extract these key details almost instantaneously once we have your application wrapped. So let me go ahead and focus on one of the sessions that have crashed. Right? Let me go ahead and open that up and break down into it. Another key thing to note down here is we tie it back to a user ID. So let's say you have Bob call into your company. Hey, I'm experiencing issues with the application. Well, sure enough, we can provide you with that detail. For this purposes, I have Bob named as user 10. Let me go ahead and drill down into that. Once I click on that, I'm able to identify where he's located again. And as you see over here, user 10 has left a feedback, right? He's telling me that, hey, the app crashed when I tried to log in and complete my order. So it looks to me like he was trying to add stuff to his cart, check out, he wasn't signed in. So he went ahead, entered his credentials, hit login, and bam, he was knocked out of the app. Why? Well, let me go ahead and find out, right? Let me click on the session details. Again, I'm provided with more finer details on what's really going on. I'm even provided with the capability to see what Bob or what user 10 was actually doing during that transition, right? Where was he tapping on? Was he tapping on an area where he expects a button to be available and there was none? Well, that's what this view is showing. This is very helpful for those times when a user calls in and says, hey, the app crashed. I don't really know what happens. Well, that's fine. I can go into AXA and figure out what's going on over there from the user session playback. As you can see, he's trying to log in. Once he hits login and bam, he gets kicked out of the app. That's when he starts to provide the feedback. If I scroll further down, I'm able to see the events that took place when Bob was browsing through the application. Now I know the application crashed. Well, let me go ahead and see where it crashed, right? I'll look at the transactions, and sure enough, it says that on account sign on, the application crashed. Well, let me go ahead and try to figure out why it crashed, right? Let me click on this. Let me take a break here and I will mention one key point. Most end user solutions in the market that are provided stops over here. All it tells you that, hey, there's an issue with account sign on. Good luck. Go ahead and find out what's causing that issue. Well, DXI enables you to basically view into different tiers, right? Right now I was focusing on the end user tier. I'm going to go ahead and jump into the application layer and provide you with a transaction trace breakdown, which is provided by Application Performance Management. And I can do that simply by clicking on this APM link that you see right here, right? Once I click on that, give it a few seconds, and it should provide me with a transaction trace breakdown. There you go. That's what you have. If I expand on this, what's this basically telling me? That, hey, that crash component, that sign on action, basically took around 200 milliseconds. And in that 200 milliseconds, these were the different components that made it up, right? And if I look at it, if you look over here, the component that took most of the time is the struts. Out of 195 seconds, it took 190 seconds. And that's a good identifier for me that, hey, this particular call or method, whatever it is, must have broken down my sign-on function, right? And if I want to know what class or what method was it, well, I just need to look on towards my right. And I'm provided with the class as well as the method level from an application standpoint. So as you can see, I'm able to tie in the end user experience from a mobile perspective all the way to the application tier and drill down to that very specific line of code, your class level details and the method level details. Now let me take a step back again. Let's say the application guys are telling me, hey, I know it's saying that the method level is wrong, but maybe your infrastructure is not providing me enough resources that I need. Well, let me go ahead and try to identify if something is really wrong with my infrastructure. So within the application performance tool, so the map that you see here is just an application map topology. It's a breakdown of the different nodes and components that communicate within your application. Now, I was talking about infrastructure, right? Let me go ahead and switch over to the infrastructure layer. And this is the underlying infrastructure that is supporting my entire application. Something funny here, right? I noticed there are red marks all over the place. That's telling me that something is wrong with the infrastructure. Okay, well, I just found out that the application code was bad, but looks like the underlying infrastructure is causing some issues as well. Well, let me take a look at one of them, right? Let me select this infrastructure component, and let me expand on it. As you can see, I'm provided with a bunch of different metrics. Let me switch over to live view. Everything looks to be stable. There's no jagged lines. Everything's performing well. Well, let me make sure again. Let me go ahead and open another view. What we call is IAM dashboard. So within DXI, this is the infrastructure component. And as you can see in a minute, it will give me a couple of more details, right? Let it load up. And as you can see over here, CPU usage seems to be fairly low. That's just about 1%. However, if you notice something, even though it's below 2%, there's a red mark over there. There's a red indicator. That's telling me another idea that, hey, maybe one of the administrators went up and set an alarm for a very, very low threshold, right? How can I identify that? Well, let me switch over to the alarms and identify what's going on. Let me look at for that particular host, so 20, right? It was this particular host, and let's see. Sure enough. So as you can see, what this is basically telling me that, hey, the threshold has been set to 1%. Anytime CPU usage crosses 1%, send an alert. Well, that doesn't really make sense, right? In a general environment, you will see CPU usage spike up over 1%. So this over here is a good identifier that the application issue that I initially found out, the code level and method level view, was the root cause of the entire end user experience. He was unable to sign on. We drilled down into that transaction trace. We even confirmed it from the infrastructure perspective that nothing was wrong from there. And that was it. That's what about it. That's what I want to talk about from a DXI platform. It's an all-in-one solution covering your end user, your application tier, as well as your infrastructure tier. Thank you guys for attending.